Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. The Burgundy Zone is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listofrederick.com. But we are rejoined for the second time by Kent Platte, my man, the creator of the RAS score, the relative athlete score. How are you doing on this Friday?
Fantastic, man. Hoping to have a good rest of the day.
Yeah, judging by that mustache, I think that's a pretty good estimation there, Kent. But the one question I have to ask for you, because this draft coming up is really important, obviously, for everybody, but especially for Washington fans, given with the way the first round went last season. So my question to you, the Ohio State wide receivers, are they worthy of that 11th overall pick, in your opinion, for the Washington Commanders, and what was their scores?
Yeah, I would put both of those guys right up there in play at 11. There's people that have both of them in the top 5 or one or the other in the top 5. I don't think I'm that high on either one of them, but both of those receivers are fantastic prospects, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. Surprisingly, neither one of those guys scored in the elite range for RAS, partially because they're just not very big guys, and they didn't score overall well. Both of them are very fast, which is what you'd expect. But neither of the guys came above 8, but they were both above average athletes. Garrett Wilson had a 7.74, which is perfectly fine. And, it's a great score. He had great speed. His agility drills weren't that good. Some people really expected him to crush the agility drills, but he did his shuttle, and that was poor. Olave, I lied. Olave actually did go above the 8 mark. He had elite speed and then good explosion, but neither one of the guys were way up there, like we're in the 9.5 range. Both good athletes, both great with the ball in their hands, both great getting the ball in their hands. They're definitely worthy of those picks.
Before you go, Reed, I'm sorry. Is off the top of your head, I'm sure I'm putting you in a very tough spot. Were there any comps to those two wide receivers that you had based on the numbers?
Yeah, so new to the site now is right below the cards. There's actually a comp that pulls together a group of 5 players that have somewhat similar metrics. Chris Olave measured close to Steve Breston and Kenny Stills. I know that's not going to be like, oh yeah, top 10 type of guy. But remember, this is just an athletic comparison. And then Garrett Wilson was similar to Eddie Royal from an athletic standpoint. Those are productive wide receivers. You're never going to be looking at a guy and being, oh man, he's exactly like this guy. You just want them to be athletically comparable to a guy who can be productive, and both of those guys are.
Right. Yeah. The thing about Olave that surprised me was I believe he had a 32-inch vertical or something. And sometimes on some of his tape, I know he's made some catches that were, you would expect that and Garrett Wilson's to be a little bit higher than they were. But hey, like you said, it is what it is. That's the testing numbers. Another player who I was very surprised to see his RAS score, which was over 9, despite running a 4.59 40 at the combine, was Kyle Hamilton. He's getting ripped a little bit, it seems like, in the media, falling down some mock drafts. What made him score so high despite a slower 40?
Well, he's one of the largest safeties to ever test. He's 6'4" and an eighth, and then 220 pounds. That's 99th percentile and 97th percentile, respectively. His explosion drills were extremely good. He had a 38-inch vertical and a 10-11 broad. Those are both elite range explosion drills. And people like to point to his 40-yard dash, but his 10-yard split was still really good at 1.57, and his shuttle drill was really good at 6.9. Those aren't elite tier numbers. Those aren't above the 80th percentile, but they're pretty close. And they're good enough, right? So the only really poor statistics that he had was his shuttle time was actually worse than his 40, and then his 40-yard dash. And that's really it. Everything else he measured just fine or great in.
Oh, nice. And so during this offseason, Washington lost some key linemen up front on their offensive line. So it looks like coming up in this draft, they might be looking to add some interior offensive linemen for some depth. What are some guys that scored pretty high RAS scores in the interior offensive line?
So one of my favorite players from this offensive line on the interior is Cole Strange. He's probably not a name a lot of folks are super big on because they wouldn't have heard him coming into the Senior Bowl and things like that. But he's out of Chattanooga. He tested amongst the highest ever at guard. He's going to move to center, and he might be challenging Chiefs center Creed Humphrey for that 10 overall RAS spot when I move him to center. He tested that well. But on top of just being one of the best testers, he's also extremely intelligent. That's how I knew him coming into the Senior Bowl, and then the combine was just how smart he is and how good of a processor he is. So on top of that, also one of the best athletes ever at the position. Another mid-round type of guy that you might that I think should be going up people's boards is Blaze Andrews out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Really good guard.
Very athletic.
Very athletic. Also a math guy. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit biased because of that. But he tested extremely well. And if you're looking for that type of guy, that's another guy to keep an eye on. This class is overall pretty athletic at the top. So the guys that you'd expect to test well generally did. The only one that kind of didn't that people expected to was Kenyon Green, but Zion Johnson's that other big name guard that's probably going to go in the first round, maybe the early second, and he tested phenomenally as well.
Yeah, and obviously, just to give some context to your joke earlier, Kent, he's the NFL Analytics and Applications Development for Pro Football, PFN365. That's why he has obviously a connection there. But, Ken, I must ask you a question, Giggity. Christian Watson, I've seen some comps for him with Calvin Johnson. Does his RAS score kind of make sense?
The RAS does, because he's an extremely talented athlete. Calvin Johnson was an insane level athlete. And this is where people got to really kind of wrap their heads around it. The worst test that Calvin Johnson had was his 10-yard split. And I think it was 97th percentile. And that was his worst metric. Everything else was above that. So when you're talking about that level, that's a high mark to clear. And Watson didn't clear that, but he was pretty close. He tested his agilities at his pro day. I don't have official numbers for those, but they're fine. They're not great, but they're not terrible. They're not below average. So I'm hopeful that his score will stay really good. It's at 9.96 unofficially right now.
Wow.
But you're talking about a really big receiver with great speed and great explosiveness and at least passable agility. You can do a lot of stuff with that.
Right. I do want to throw in there real fast. You had mentioned the guard, somebody who's listed as a tackle that I think can play guard, at least on the NFL profiles. Nick Zakelj, is that how you pronounce his last name? Zakelj. Yeah. He's a tackle / guard. He tested very high too. His RAS score, as you know, but there's some interesting defensive tackles in the towards the back end, towards the middle of the draft and the back end that scored fairly highly on their drafts. Who are some of these guys that you think could really come in here and possibly fill a role for Washington, like a Thomas Booker or somebody along those lines?
Well, you stole the first one I was going to mention. Thomas Booker. So that's kind of cheating.
I have a habit of that. I'm sorry.
We kind of got overshadowed in this class because Jordan Davis is such a ridiculous, insane athlete. He has the second best RAS average all time behind Calvin Johnson, just to give you an example of how incredible of an athlete he is. That's regardless of position. Mid rounds is a little bit difficult because we have Jordan Davis and Travis Jones and guys like that. One guy that's really started to kind of boost his stock a little bit, I think, is Zachary Carter out of Florida. He didn't really have a lot of buzz coming into the combine. He tested kind of good at the combine. He did much better at his pro day. Also had really good agility drills at his pro day, which I was told was a thing he wasn't going to do very well in. I haven't watched enough of his tape to make that assumption myself. But he's probably a guy to look out for kind of jumping up in those early day or late day 2, early day 3 types of guys.
Wow.
And sticking with the offensive side of the ball with Washington, a guy, say they don't go receiver at 11 in their first round pick, and maybe they want to go a second round pick. What was a guy like Sky Moore's RAS score? Because I definitely think that he can come to the NFL and be a playmaker.
So I'm again a little bit biased because this is Western Michigan and that's my Broncos. So I got to get in my MACtion there. But he had a 7.53, which doesn't sound like an insane number in your head, but his comps to guys like Golden Tate and Eddie Royal extremely closely, and he has a very similar play style to Golden Tate. So sense. It's not a comp that you can just look at and be like, oh well, they tested kind of similar. They play really similar too. Right. Great speed, great explosion. Believe it or not, Golden Tate didn't do well in agility drills. but and neither did Sky Moore. But I think from a play style perspective, if you have that kind of athletic comp and you play that way, that's usually a good sign.
Absolutely. And then one position that Washington fans are clamoring for a replacement or a draft pick at is middle linebacker. And there's guys like Devin Lloyd, Chad Muma, who could be targeted in the first 2 rounds. What were those guys' RAS scores? Were they really good athletes?
Yeah, both Chad Muma and Leo Chenal both tested really well. There's a lot of guys that tested really well. This linebacker class was actually a lot stronger than I think a lot of people had anticipated. Troy Anderson out of Montana State's another guy that tested incredibly well. I think his hype has kind of cooled off a little bit. People are starting to see there's a little bit more development to his game, but you could see a mid-round pick, kind of like what the Lions did last year with Derek Barnes, where he gets picked up in a developmental role and gets eased in as the season goes along, takes his lumps. Another guy to look out for was linebacker Brandon Smith out of Penn State, extremely explosive. I know there's some people that talk about his tackling not being the greatest, but if you have an elite tier athlete who's good in other areas of football, if you find a couple of wrinkles you need to fix, you can work on those.
Right. Real fast, what is it about Georgia defenders right now that just all seem to get crazy numbers? I mean, first of all, we talked about Thomas Davis. We talked about Jordan Davis already. Devontae Wyatt is unreal. Then you look at Channing Tilden. That's what it is, right? Channing Tindall. Sorry, I just keep thinking of Channing Tatum every time I hear his name. I can't get it out of my mind. Quay Walker, Lewis Cine, all these guys scored exceptionally well. What is in the water down there, and what do I do to get that kind of body?
I don't know. Apparently, you got to get recruited within a very specific period in the state of Georgia. Right. Yeah, because you didn't even name them all. There's also George Pickens, Zamir White. Adam Anderson's probably not going to get drafted for some pretty severe character stuff, but he also tested incredibly well. That team was just set up top to bottom extremely well. They kind of crushed it this draft period.
But that wasn't a real question, guys. I was just kind of joking around. But anyway, so the tight end position. I mean, there's some freaks in there. And one person who's really kind of fallen down boards is Jalen Weidermeyer out of Texas A&M. What did he show or not show really with his RAS score that kind of has forced him to drop a little bit?
Well, I'm pulling up my tight ends, and I've got to go a few pages in just to find him.
Wow.
He has one of the lowest RAS scores of the entire class, period. He ended up with a 1 out of 10.
Jalen Weidermeyer
out of Texas A&M. He ran a 5.02 at his pro day, and people were like, "Oh, that's worrisome." And somebody had reported that his vert.
He ran a 5.02.
Yes, and somebody had reported that his vert was a 35.5, and I was like, "Oh, well, that's not too bad."
Right.
I mean, maybe he just ran a bad 40, and they were like, "Oh, sorry, my bad. That was a 25.5. I was off by 10 inches." Which is incredibly bad.
There was a point he was supposed to be a first-round pick for like a couple years where he was unreal. And
I don't know whether it's lack of training or what, but he did not win the pro day circuit at all. He struggled pretty mightily with his pro day.
Good.
Not great.
God. Yeah, no, I remember his name coming up his first couple of years at A&M. I was like, oh, I'm going to look out for that guy coming up in the NFL. But yeah, the numbers don't sound too appeasing if you look at him closely.
5.02 as a tight end.
Yeah. Yeah. And another position that Washington seemed to lose a couple players at was the interior defensive line. And it looks like we're going to be looking to restock at that position as well. Who are some pretty high scoring RAS guys?
Well, we already mentioned Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Thomas Booker. There's a lot of really big athletic dudes in this class, and I love big athletic dudes. It's one of my favorite things. I actually left work at Pro Football Network to go hang out with my Pride of Detroit guys when the Lions drafted Alan McNeil last year, because I was that excited that they had drafted one of my guys. Andy was a big athletic defensive lineman. Another guy we mentioned only briefly was Travis Jones out of Connecticut. I got to see him down at the Senior Bowl. It was my first exposure to him. Guys that big, when you see them move that fast and be that explosive and chase guys down, it's surreal. It just doesn't make sense. Your head takes a minute to wrap around how that guy is moving that way, which is why everybody was so enamored with Jordan Davis. And if Jordan Davis didn't have the combine that he did, we'd be talking about Travis Wyatt as that really big top tier defensive tackle, or Travis Jones rather, as a guy that's jumping up all them boards. Really good player, extremely athletic.
And now,
What about John Ridgway real fast? That's Kyle's boy.
Damn it.
Oh, were you? I thought we asked 2 defensive tackle questions already.
No, I was gonna add it in with the last question.
Well, no, go ahead then. Ask, because I didn't have a real question.
I was just gonna ask you, what did you do you have numbers for John Ridgway?
I do. He didn't test quite as well as a lot of the other guys did. He ran a 5.3. His 10-yard split was okay. But this is a 320-pound defensive tackle. This is nose tackle size. So I want to provide a little context to that. His overall RAS is a 4.7, which you look at and you're like, oh, that's not as great. But we're looking at a weird class that has all these crazy, super athletic tackles. We don't usually get guys like that.
Right.
The guys that do that are the 280, 290-pound defensive tackles. Guys at 320 don't usually test that well. For a guy that size, he tested fine. He had a good broad jump for that size at 8 foot 5 inches. He had good shuttle and comb, which guys that big don't usually test very well in those drills either. None of those are above average numbers for a defensive tackle in general, but for a huge nose tackle like him, those are good numbers. You want to see those types of things. Guys that are stronger nose tackles, they tend to be like 2 or 3 for RAS because they only really have weight, bench, and vert usually, or broad usually, those 3 things. And out of 10, you get 3 metrics, right? He's got more than that to him as far as athletic testing goes.
Yeah, now to wrap this up, Kent, let's keep this with Arkansas real quick. Only have a couple more questions for you. Treylon Burks, what is his RAS score? My player comp to him after watching his film was Anquan Bolden. Are there any numbers that correlate that?
Yeah, I don't know if I personally would have put him on the same level as Bolden. Bolden tested really poorly, but he's also a very weird wide receiver.
Yep.
A lot of people came into the combine with this whole idea that Treylon Burks was going to be this insane level athlete, and he just wasn't. He ran a 4.55, which is fine for a 225-pound wide receiver. Totally fine. You shouldn't worry about that. But if you thought he was going to test way better than that,
people were saying 4.3.
Yeah, right. People were saying around 4.3. So the fact that he didn't, if you thought he was going to and he didn't, that should be a concern to you. I'm not a huge Treylon Burks fan. That isn't to say I think he's a bad player. I just didn't have the early first round hype a lot of guys did. For me, I thought he won a lot with physicality, which is something that Anquan Bolden won with. I thought he won because he's a bigger, more physical guy who knew how to box out defenders. He knew how to take advantage of space. He knew how to use his size to get the ball in his hands, and in a way that he could have space between himself and another defender to get himself some yards after the catch. That's a good type of receiver. You can do a lot with that. He tested out as had a 5.78 RAS, which isn't great, but also isn't terrible. Cooper Kupp had a 5. You can get by with that as long as you have something to hang your hat on. And I think Treylon Burks does. I think he has very transferable skills to the NFL. But I didn't think he had all those elite athletic traits. I think that he tested kind of how he is. He's an explosive, fast for his size type of receiver, and he is that.
Yep. And one player that has been mocked a bunch to Washington in one of the spots on defense, Jalen Petrie out of Baylor. What did you think of his game altogether? And then did he test out well?
He did test out well. I had to send the card to you guys in chat because I don't have this 40-yard dash up on the site yet.
Okay.
It's an unofficial one from Baylor. He ran a 4.44, I think. But he tested out really well, especially for a smaller safety. When you have a smaller safety, you want them to test out either fast, explosive, or quick. You don't need to have all 3, but you want to have at least one, and preferably more than one. And he's got the speed and the explosion, or as far as speed and the agility he's got. So smaller guy, but he's got transferable traits that you can use for not necessarily for a box safety, but for a guy that's more a deep safety or playing in coverage. Also got to watch him at the Senior Bowl, and he was one of the most dominant players during Senior Bowl practices while he was there. I only saw like one person beat him in blocking drills, and it was Trey McBride, who was a big tight end. So
wow. It says a lot. Ken, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and being able to join us again. Real quick, before you get out of here, just in case anybody watching doesn't follow you already and wants to be able to get all these up-to-date RAS scores and all these draft prospects, your social media handles.
Yeah, you can always find me on Twitter at MathBomb or using the hashtag RAS hashtag to try to find me. My stuff is constantly posting. It's getting closer to the draft, so you're going to see it more and more because I'll be scheduling a bunch of posts. People are going to be reposting them and all that stuff. I also run the mock draft simulator for Pro Football Network, so you can always
My
check
favorite
that out.
one, by the way. Thank you.
Mine too.
It's good. It's amazing. Seriously, it's amazing, dude. You guys killed it with that. Like the rankings are perfect. Like
yeah, if you go there and check that out, that's always a lot of fun. And of course, that links back to the site, and you can support the site that way. Or of course, RAS scores are on there too. And I haven't convinced him to let me link back to my site yet. I'm working on that, but we'll get there. But those are the best ways to support what I do is hitting me up on Twitter, checking out the site at ras.football, easy to remember, and then checking out the sim.
Dude, honestly, Ken, I don't know what is better, your mustache, the hat, or your t-shirt, a Mortal Kombat t-shirt. My man. Ken, I hope you have a great weekend, sir, and keep up the great work. Hopefully we can get you back on here soon.
Appreciate it, man. Glad you guys have me back.
Of course, brother. You have a good night.
Appreciate it, man.
Too.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Kent Platte. That was awesome.
I didn't know that he ran the PFN mock draft simulator. That thing, after trying all of them, it's been my favorite one. I'll do like 70 of them a day.
I'm still getting used to the rankings for them because I've done the draft network so much at this point.
Yeah.
That I'm just like, that's just solidified in my mind. But we kind of
to
talked.
me, the draft network ones is just so all over the place with a lot of them. But once you get used to PFNs, I think that the rankings are pretty good. I think that they're pretty accurate. A lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah, look, everyone around the world obviously knows April 1st is April Fool's Day. Everyone's pulling jokes, but it is no joke given the fact that it is Sean Taylor's birthday today. And so just wanted to reach out and just say, guys, that the Washington Commanders have actually started a website, commandlegacy.com. It is a Sean Taylor memorial page that they partnered up with Jackie Taylor, Sean's daughter, obviously, where you can go and you submit your stories of Sean, your memories, and so they can kind of remember Sean from a fan perspective, but also from on the football field as well. So real quick, guys, I wanted to get, what is your most favorite Sean Taylor memory? Hall, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I think I said it before, but it definitely has to be the Eagles game, the scoop and score.
The scoop and score.
Or not the scoop and score, but the Eagles game when
that was a scoop and score. Yeah. You're right. Hall's had a long day, guys. I'm sorry.
I have, honestly. Been up since like 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock today. Yeah, all right. So the Eagles game, the scoop and score. Obviously, like, it was a great time to be alive back then. Crowd was going crazy. And that's definitely just one of my favorite memories.
Oh, yeah, dude, for me, it has to be the Cowboys game, the blocked field goal return for to get the Washington Redskins to get a chance to kick the field goal to win that game against Bill Parcells and the Cowboys. I'll never forget. I was working as a busboy at Agrodolce. I was up at the bar, just cheering, going crazy as he's running up the field. I'm going, go, 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 get in the range. And then I see the face mask get pulled, get shifted to the side. It's like, that's 15 more. We might actually be in range. And then they won that game. I mean, that just like with Sean Taylor, that was just a microcosm of Sean, where like it was an impossible situation and somehow they were on the brink of losing, and that man was able to put them in a position to win. That's Sean.
Yeah. So of course you guys had great ones. They're probably the best ones, but also one that always sticks out in my mind, man, was that Carolina Panthers game. I know that they are apparently a farm system into the Washington Commanders right now, but back in the day, Sean Taylor, he had that 4th down tackle on was it Musha Muhammad, I believe, where he grabbed his leg and stopped him just like an inch short, where he tried to make some athletic move. He also had an interception to end that game, and it was just like those little things. And the Brett Favre 2 interception game to put him as the all-time interception leader. Like, Sean Taylor did so many things that we don't think about all the time, but it's just incredible what that guy could do on the field.
Absolutely, man. And I want to get in real quick because it just got announced yesterday that Congress is expanding their investigation into Dan Snyder and possible financial irregularities, right? There's a rumor, there's speculation from an anonymous source that they can't name the source, but that Dan had kept 2 financial books on Washington, and so they're going to be looking into it. Hull, are you surprised? Do you think that this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back and forces Snyder to sell?
Well, obviously, if it's true, then that will definitely be the straw that broke the back of the camel, and he would be forced to sell. Probably also might be going to jail. That's like a white collar crime or something like that, right? I don't know, but yeah, I don't know like much about like financials and cooking books and all that kind of stuff. But the most I do know is, like I said, that it's pretty much a crime, and if it's actually there really is a second book, then Obviously, he's going to go down. But again, at the end of the day, how much can you trust like a anonymous source? And at the same time, it's not. I'm not going to say they're trying to. It feels like they're just like throwing stuff at the wall and trying to see what sticks. But it kind of feels like at this point, they're just going to keep bringing stuff up week after week after week until I think they're just trying to smoke them out of being like, look, I'll just sell, just leave me alone, bye. But obviously, Dan Snyder's like petty. He's not ever going to do that.
Yeah, I honestly,
Yeah.
for me, I'm not. If it's true, obviously, with everything that's come against Snyder up until this point, if any of it is true, would be possibly the tip over of him to being able to sell, right? And the one thing I'm thinking about this is how hypocritical it's like the pot calling the kettle black, because it's funny that Congress is saying financial irregularities and everything, but it wasn't Nancy Pelosi the one that was like advocating for keeping the fact that they have stock advantages, that they don't think they do anything wrong and stuff like that, and being able to cook the stock market with their husband's money and stuff. Come on, man. If anyone is going to go after something, it's not y'all. Okay, I'm just going to say that right here.
Yeah.
But that's just how. Look, if it's true, obviously it could get him to go, but that would be requiring Dan to do the right thing, and the track record up until this point has not proven that to be possible.
Right. Yeah. And it's tough because, I mean, everybody involved is just so trustworthy. You know, I mean, you look at politicians, these politicians are very trustworthy. Dan Snyder's proven to be very trustworthy. Is very smart with his money, paying people like Jason Wright to come hand deliver me a gold sleeve jacket.
Oh, dude, we haven't even talked about that.
I know. I was like disappointed that I kept it on earlier because I was like, I wanted to pop it out. Now I have to wear it for the whole episode until it's brought up. And yeah, but in NBD, it's real, 100% real. Unlike Keith, I don't have white sleeves, so that's cool.
And speaking of white sleeves, the Nationals, obviously everyone here, obviously we're the Commanders podcast, but the Nats came out with their cherry blossom gear, which was absolutely incredible. I loved it. I know it got a lot of good reactions. What did you think, Hall?
I definitely liked it more than the Wizards cherry blossoms jersey.
Yeah.
Like they were like way too like pink. They should have like took like the Nationals route, made them more like a bluish grayish.
Yeah.
Or maybe like just put like the cherry blossoms on the jersey, kind of like the Nationals. Pretty much just copy the Nationals is what I was trying to say. But yeah, the National stuff was fire. I plan on getting me a Juan Soto jersey. Hopefully, my football jersey curse doesn't carry over to baseball because it seems that every time I buy a jersey, something bad happens. And if I buy a Juan Soto jersey, I don't want him to like leave. But hopefully it doesn't happen. But it's definitely fire, and I'm definitely plan on copping a jersey.
Yeah, I'm not going to cop a jersey, I don't think. I never cop jersey. Usually they're just gifted to me. Both of these were, obviously.
Look at you, big guy on campus.
Yeah, but I will say, like, the hat, obviously I liked a lot. It's very similar to the hat that I wear, so I'm glad that other people will be able to experience the hat that I have. I don't know how else to say it. No, I hate the fact that they brought the hat back, man, because now everyone's gonna be wearing it, dude.
Yeah.
I like being unique, but I loved the concept of what they brought out. I don't have any baseball jerseys, but if I were to get one, it would be Soto. Absolutely, I would be copping that.
Yeah, I mean, they're beautiful. They set records for their City Connect sales. And obviously the hat, I ordered one of the hats. Don't worry, Kyle. I'm not going to wear it on the podcast because I can't, because that thing's glued to your head. And no, but it's gorgeous. Like, you're right. Like, it's like just the perfect hat. But if I were to get any jersey, obviously, besides Juan Soto, I'd probably get a basketball Cooper Beers jersey.
That is so awesome, dude.
That is.
Yeah, it's autographed too by Squeak
fire.
Scolari. So
Who?
it's not autographed. The little, I can't say it because this goes out, but the little dude, the little little
yeah.
word.
What was his superhero in the movie?
No, that.
Oh no, that's their other movie. My bad. I completely
yeah.
botched that.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
everybody. But now we are joined by our second guest, who's going to finish this show with us as we answer fan questions.
There he is.
Wanted to change things up a little bit, Mr. Coach Greg Curl, the father of Cameron Curl. How are you doing on this beautiful Friday night, sir?
Well, I'm good, man. I'm good. How y'all doing? You hear me all right?
Oh,
yeah.
You sound great, sir.
Loving the hat too.
So, Coach
Oh,
Curl,
yeah.
so I know that you've watched the show before. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the round table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the fan questions, and one by one we're going to answer them personally. So we're going to start this one with you. Play one, bench one, and cut one. Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, or Chase Young?
Whew.
Putting him on the spot.
Sorry, Mike just sent it in. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This isn't real. It's not literally. Okay, guys. He's not trash. He just has to choose it.
Play one, bench one, and cut one. Wow.
Here, I'll start. I'll go. I'm playing Terry. I'm benching I'm benching Chase Young, and I'm cutting Antonio Gibson. I'm sorry, AJ.
Yeah, I love them also. It's hard. You almost like have to go like by what position's more important, I guess.
Right.
But like Terry, I guess you got to go with play Terry, like you said, bench Chase. And unfortunately, I love AG. He's one of my favorite backs of all time, for Washington.
We're pissing
But,
Hull
hey,
off with these.
Running back's just not as important as it used to be. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, AG.
What do you
I
think,
would go a
Coach?
little different. I'll go a little
Okay.
different. I'm gonna play Terry. Got to play Terry.
Right.
I'm a bench Antonio Gibson, and I can almost afford to cut Chase Young just because I have some other top
There, you
notch
still got a Montez
defensive
Sweat.
line.
Right,
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
Right.
But still, that would be one of those things where you have to lay on your pillow and cry because you had to cut.
We don't want to make Chase mad either.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm
Hall?
with you guys. Obviously, AG's my guy. I loved him before we even drafted him. That was my guy. But
Oh man.
I'm with you too, man. I got to play Terry, got to bench Chase, and I got to cut my guy AG. I'm sorry, AG. I still got your jersey. That was cool.
Hey, we got to have a current events real quick before we get into the next question, Coach. Have you ever Will Smith somebody?
I think my naval record would verify that I have been in a couple of Will Smith situations. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever watched the movie. Was it Antoine Fisher?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the first time I saw it, I thought somebody had been watching me and followed me around in the Navy. I wasn't as touched as he was, but I used to get into. I've been in that same building he had to go to when he went to go see Denzel Washington. The exact same
After he
building
got
on
in trouble?
32nd. Yeah, on 32nd Street in San Diego.
Wow.
To talk to somebody about my anger. I told him I wasn't mad. I just, hey.
Sometimes, yeah, you got to hold somebody's going to push your buttons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to
That's what
protect.
happens
You got to
sometimes.
protect your
Yeah.
wife. And then
Yeah.
last week, Coach, you had commented on one of our posts about the Colonel and his great questions and wanting to follow him on Twitter. So I thought you'd be the first person that I would ask this question to from the Colonel. And he actually asked this last week, but we missed it. When are we going to get serious about the tight end position? For as long as I can remember, either Jordan Reed or Logan Thomas and now John Bates has some type of injury that keeps them out of good percentage of the season. Can we really afford to have the luxury of a developmental player like Sammis Reyes on our roster when we are so thin at such an important position, Mr. Curl?
Man, he always come with the heat.
Yeah, I know,
That is a good question. And unfortunately for Logan Thomas, I hate everything that happened to him. I was so excited when he got back on the field, and then bam, that happened. Because that was perfect for Sammy. That was, to have that guy with that experience in there, and Logan produces when he's on the field. It can hurt if we don't have nobody in place to really go out there and play and show him, because we don't want to throw nobody in the fire that ain't ready, because it's gonna hurt him more than help him. So
you're absolutely right about that. I understand what the Colonel is essentially saying, that you have a plethora of tight ends, right? You already have 3 on the roster, and then you have Sammis Reyes as your third. Are you going to draft a guy with Sammis Reyes there, keeping 4 tight ends on the roster in that one spot of the 53? You're going to take it for a developmental guy? Obviously, you could stash him on the practice squad and everything, but is it going to be beneficial enough for you to keep him there as a developmental guy? And judging by his workout videos, how big he's gotten and how much of production that he did increase throughout the season, because he even said himself at the end of the year interview how much it was crazy to see the progress that he had made since the beginning of the year. So I think this is the year you'll probably see a little bit more of Sammis Reyes, and hopefully that'll balance things out, Colonel. But I do think that you definitely have a point by saying, is it really worth the roster spot when you're going to be possibly drafting somebody anyway?
Right. Yeah. And even if you look a little bit past that, I mean, Fred Davis was in and out of the lineup a lot, whether that was due to injury or suspension. I mean, really before that, it was just Chris Cooley was the last solid tight end that we had that was just there every game you could count on. in today's NFL, I think that you do need to have multiple tight ends, but you're right. That does beg the question. Then are you really going to keep 4? And especially, I mean, I know Cameron Cheeseman's a long snapper, but a lot of times those guys are considered tight ends in a way. But I mean, so that's 4 already. 5. That would be 5 if you counted Cheeseman, which you don't.
Right.
But in Madden, they do, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so.
I was about to say that, but I didn't want to. What do you think, Hall?
Yeah, I definitely think that. Well, first off, losing Ricky Seals-Jones to the Giants was definitely a blow because
Happy for him,
definitely,
though.
yeah, I'm definitely happy for him, but I definitely wanted him to stay here. This would be like,
Me too.
obviously, take the role for Logan Thomas till Logan's fully like back and ready to go. But I think that might go along the route of kind of that Ricky Seals-Jones, kind of that guy again. Maybe after the draft, maybe a guy that gets cut, maybe an undrafted free agent, something like that. But I definitely think that they're going to rely on John Bates to maybe step in there and until Logan's back and ready to go. But yeah, like you said, I definitely think this might be the year that we see a little bit more Samus. Hopefully he's developed over the offseason and he's going to be ready to contribute because, like you said, we're kind of thin at the position, so we're going to need it.
You're right. And now, Coach Curl, the next question from the Colonel is, which teams might be interested in trading up for our number 11 pick? And what type of compensation would we be expecting? An extra draft pick or 2?
Yeah, anybody. I think we definitely need some extra draft picks if we decide to trade that. But I'm trying to think who would want that. Well,
Steelers,
a couple
maybe?
of teams. Yeah, there'd be a couple of teams that would probably need that 11th. I was thinking the Steelers. But yeah, and I haven't seen what their draft look like. Do they have all their draft picks?
Yeah, they have a good
they
amount.
have a good amount. Yeah.
I think like your normal average amount. You know, they're not like the Eagles who have like 30. You know.
Yeah. I would definitely try to get some more picks out of the whole thing.
Yeah, and the one team that for me, Colonel, that I keep thinking back to is the Detroit Lions. They have a bunch of top-end picks in this draft. And let's just say they do decide to go after Malik Willis at number 2, and they say to themselves, look, we don't have another pick again until 32, but we really want Treylon Burks or somebody. We want Ahmad Gardner not to slip away from our grasp. Maybe they do bring that up with some extra compensation because I did a mock draft on PFN and I traded back with Pittsburgh to number 20 and I essentially got an extra second round pick. I think if I can remember correctly, because I think the total point number I think was like 1671 for Washington's 11th overall pick, so obviously those draft picks would have to be able to accumulate to that amount for them to make that draft pick. So I think it is an extra second. If not, it's like a third and maybe like a 5 or something next year. Something along those lines. But obviously Pittsburgh is the one that I'm really pointing to and saying that they're probably the ones. If Malik Willis is there, because what other player would be there that a team would mortgage picks on to move up for?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. What do you think, Hall? Or Reed?
So yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on the trade chart, the NFL draft trade chart. They have that. I mean, if you look at Pittsburgh, because they're kind of the team everybody's eyeing right now because they've been super interested in Malik Willis, as we know. Will he make it that far? Who knows? But like, the 11th pick is worth $1250 total, and the
way off.
The 20th pick is $850, I believe. So it would have to be something like the 20th pick, the 52nd pick, and the 84th pick for the 11th pick, and then you may have to throw in 113 or something just so the points kind of equal out so they're a little bit closer. But yeah, I mean, but it also depends on who falls. I mean, I could see that even a team like the Ravens at 14 wanting to jump up a little bit if somebody like Jordan Davis falls. Like, they may just want to move up a little bit, just throw us in an extra pick, and we could still get one of those players that's in our range. But yeah, the Lions are really another team that you look at. We're like, okay, they got a lot there. They have a lot of picks that you could really use that are valuable. So there's a lot of teams. It just depends on how the board falls.
And what do you think, Cole? Are you with me?
Yeah, I was looking at the draft order real quick. I'm looking at like the early 20s, around 20 to 22. You got Pittsburgh at 20, New England at 21, and Green Bay at 22. And obviously with Green Bay trading away Devontae Adams, they're going to be looking to replace him with a top flight receiver. So maybe they want to get up to 11, maybe get one of the Ohio State guys, or maybe a Drake London. Maybe he happens to fall somehow. So maybe them, like you said, Pittsburgh Steelers as well. And even the Philadelphia Eagles at 19, maybe they want to trade up because they're targeting the guy that they really love. So those late teens, early 20s is definitely the spot. And obviously you're going to probably recoup a second round pick, maybe even a third round pick for whatever you trade back for. it'll be a second, maybe a third round pick as well. So that's the route I would take personally, unless the Ohio State guys like Garrett Wilson or Olave are there possibly, but I'm hoping they trade back just so they can get a little bit more picks in the draft.
Yeah, because there's a lot of quality talent in this draft, especially in the middle rounds. And obviously, Washington needs a lot of depth in some areas, and those picks are going to be pivotal in order to acquire that talent. Now, Coach Curl, the next question we have is from Scott Hartley in the UK, who sent us this question in through Twitter. Said, "Hi, mates. Another question for the pod. Now that the first wave of free agency is over, are you pleased or disappointed in the moves the Commanders have made?" Coach Curl.
I'm pleased. I'm pretty pleased. I mean, I see what the focus is and see exactly what they do. Well, not exactly what they're doing, but I see where they're going with what they're doing, and that's why I kind of changed my focus, because I really think that the first few picks are going to be offensive players, just off of that last conference from Ron Rivera, trying to get some help,
Yeah.
Not taking nothing from Terry and the guys we have, but the more weapons you have, it makes it easier for everybody else. I think we're pretty solid on defense. Not complete. I didn't say complete, but I think we're pretty solid
Right.
on defense. Not a whole lot of focus, a whole lot of picks should be used on defense, maybe one or two in certain spots, and then maybe try to pull some guys, in the second wave of free agency. But I'm pretty cool with what they're doing, because I mean, man, we can't get the top shelf every time. That's the reason for the salary cap. So we gotta try to spend money wisely to make sure we can get the right pieces and stuff.
You're absolutely right. Obviously Bobby Wagner just signed with the LA Rams yesterday for a $10 million contract, and that's something
salary cap
that everyone is talking about
at this point.
But Hall, that being said, brother, are you pleased? Are you disappointed after the first wave?
After the first wave, I would say I'm not really disappointed. I was surprised that they didn't really go out and make one more, one of those big splash moves that Washington's normally known to make. But if you really look at the track record of Ron since he's been here, outside of last year when obviously they got Curtis Samuel, Ryan Fitzpatrick, those are kind of big splashes to them because they thought they were top tier guys to them. But if you look at what he did the first year with Logan Thomas, J.D. McKissick, guys like that, those were kind of second wave, third wave guys. And we've gotten the most mass production out of for both of those guys in their entire career. And honestly, I think they came out today with Ron Rivera was talking to Ben Standig or John Keim, one of those two, where he was saying that he likes to attack free agency after the draft, because maybe we aren't able to draft that certain position during the draft, and then you replace him with a veteran guy for that need. So I'm expecting maybe that second, third wave after the draft, and hopefully they'll fill the need of middle linebacker and maybe like an interior defensive lineman for some more depth.
Yeah, to paraphrase what Rivera's quote essentially was to Hall's point, is that Rivera said, you don't want to go after a top-tier free agent before the draft. And then when you get to the draft and you're sitting in that spot and the one player you want to take that's the best qualified at that position at where you are, and you already paid a big guy to come in and do it, and then you have a logjam at the position. So that's essentially what Ron Rivera is saying, that they're going to attack free agency after the draft so they can really put pieces in place first, young-wise, and then supplement the holes that still exist with the free agency in the later waves, which I completely understand. And then everyone complaining about Bobby Wagner, why didn't they try for Bobby Wagner? First off, Bobby Wagner would not have signed here for $10 million. He did that for the Rams so he could be on the Rams. He wanted to stay on the West Coast. He wanted to go to a team, just won a Super Bowl. He's taking a pay cut there. Any other team, it would have been a higher price tag. So it's not, the $10 million is not realistic here for Washington, to be perfectly honest. What do you think, Reed?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on board with all of you guys. First of all, I mean, based off somebody who I've talked to, we did talk to Bobby Wagner, but you're right, he just didn't want to come here. I mean, and that's not, he wanted to go to a place where he could contend. He wanted to stay out in LA, or he wanted to go to LA. That's where he was born. That's where he was raised. You can't blame him. He took a pay cut. Hey, they just won a Super Bowl. It is what it is. The rich get richer. There's no such thing as a salary cap. They have unlimited money. Apparently they're playing with the cap ball. But then, yeah, I mean, you really want to build this team, like after losing Sheriff, like you said, after the draft, there's going to be some more guys that are released, and that's how you keep that third round compensatory pick that we're going to get next year. And after losing that in the Wentz trade, I think that that's kind of important to this team. So I definitely see what they're doing, and I think that they will make some decent moves and bring in some good players. And I do like what they're doing. I understand it. I think that they're actually attacking this with the future in mind and with what they want to do and the way that they want to build the team, instead of just being like in years past, as we've seen, is this guy's good, let's go get him. I don't care what it costs. And then you're right, you get a log jam in the draft or whatever, what have you. Or how often do big name free agents pan out for us? Never. Yeah. So I mean,
you're absolutely right about that. The track record's not good in that area. But Scott, I will say this: it's going to be brief, but I'm not pleased or disappointed. I'm just kind of luster with it. That's the way free agency should be, honestly, because there's still holes in this team. But they were put into a position they couldn't. Obviously, they had to go get their quarterback. The pressure was on, and they had to go get their guy, which put them in a very tough spot, a rock and a hard place essentially with these free agents. And I can understand why they wanted to take the smart long-term approach by not going hard after these veterans that come in immediately, Scott. But I really appreciate the question, brother. Now our next question is from Chris Bryant, Coach Carl, and he wants to know, what Commanders defense will we see this upcoming year? The 2020 season or the 2021 season?
Oh, definitely the 2020 season.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Who knows better than you right now, too? What's Cam saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. Year 3 is going to be the best year so far. I'm looking forward to seeing the defense. I'm just telling you that. And waiting to see on this what other pieces they put in there. Because it's a possibility we're going to get a dog that ain't been a dog. On that second round of free agency, because that's where you get the guys that be like, you know what, I still need to prove something. They're going to come in a little hungrier with a chip on their shoulder. And, I like those guys. I like the underdogs. I like the guys that, we done forgot about and all that. They come in and try to prove themselves because they're going to work hard.
They just got cut for some young guy coming into the league.
Yes. Yep. So I'm looking forward to this defense. And now we're going to be seeing more complimentary football, I think, because once we get this year, it's going to be better on both sides of the ball, but it's going to give us a chance to gel with one quarterback. The receivers get everybody gel, get to play together and see. So, but yeah, that defense is going to be that 2020 D. We're going to be the number 1 defense in the league.
Ooh, I don't number 1 defense. I love that. No, I don't have a crystal ball, Chris, so I can't tell you what's going to happen in the future. But I will say that given the difficulty based on what Warren Sharp had produced the other day on Twitter, showing the schedule difficulty of Washington and having the easiest schedule in the NFL projected by him, in that I would imagine it's going to be closer to the 2020 season, where it's not that much of competition, whereas last year they just saw an insane row of quarterbacks back to back to back, and that's not going to happen. So you're going to see the seesaw effect coming back with this defense, and I definitely think 2020 is more realistic than anything else. What do you think, Hall?
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. I definitely think that, just like you said, based off of the quarterbacks that we don't have to play this upcoming year, I definitely think it's going to revert back to that 2020 year. I definitely think Chase coming off the injury has a chip on his shoulder to kind of prove my rookie year wasn't a fluke. I'm still that dude. I definitely think Montez coming off of what he went through last year, the injury, losing his brother, I definitely think he wants to show I deserve that big long-term next up pass rusher contract. And yeah, at the end of the day, like you said, Cam Curl in year 3, he's already been a rising star. He's better to elevate to superstardom. I definitely think Jonathan Allen going to take that next step up to he was a beast last year. He's going to take that next step to just all-around dog. So I definitely think this defense is going to – if we can get the linebacker corrected, I definitely think get some more depth pieces. It's going to be that 2020 defense. And like Coach said, the offense hopefully finally will be able to play some complementary football where both sides of the ball are gelling together. And when both sides are gelling, it only produces wins most of the time. So hopefully it's 2020.
Yeah. And I mean, like you guys talked about, we're not facing Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. I mean, those Brady. Guys. Tom Brady, right. So, I mean, it should be better. There's no question in my mind they're going to be closer to the 2020 season, like you mentioned. I mean, Chase Young coming back, he's got a lot to prove. Montez Sweat, he had a down year because of some tragedies and some terrible things that have happened. Jamin Davis is going to get better. Kendall Fuller quietly had one of the best seasons in the NFL, according to PFF. He's been solid. I expect him to continue being that way. I think William Jackson will have a better season. And then there's a certain safety that has really kind of been getting not enough credit. And of course, you might know him a little bit, Coach. His name is Cam Curl. Very nice guy. No, one of the things I love about Cam is when we had him on the show the last time, I asked him, I was like, what is it going to take for you to start getting respect and make a Pro Bowl? And he was like, dude, I'm not even worried about that. He was like, I just want to win. I just want to play the game. And that's the type of person that you need in your locker room. That's what you want. Somebody who's going to do it all for the team, and the stats and the recognition will come, and he deserves it, and he's going to get it. I'm expecting a huge leap for him as well in year 3.
So this next question is from Douglas Riders. Thank you, Chris Bryant. That was awesome.
All right, I got a dip
On Twitter. All right, dude, I'll see you. This
right,
question
Coach, have a good weekend.
Is from Douglas Riders, Coach. But before I ask this question to you, I'm going to ask 2 questions back to back. So now, do you think Cam, do you think he wants to sign here long term? Like, is that because the whole speculation is that players like don't want to come here, they don't want to play here. Do you have a feeling that Cam is the opposite of that?
I have never heard him or seen him, make any inclination that he doesn't want to be there. I do know that coming into the NFL, he wanted to have his whole career in one spot. I'm gonna tell you one thing about Cam. One thing about Cam is change is okay if he have to do it, but if it's up to him, he'll be right there where he is. He's comfortable. I know the coaches. Let's play. Let's try to win the championship right here where I'm at. That's just the kind of person he is. If Cam ever leaves Washington, it'll be because it's not up to him.
Wow.
I'm with you, dude. Yeah, I love to hear that.
That just gave me butterflies.
Now, Coach, the actual question, you got me all steamed up now, from Douglas. Yeah. Maybe, did fans overreact to Alex Smith's comments on the Rich Eisen show or not?
I didn't see none.
I didn't see anything either.
That I would think that was overreaction, heck. And it happens. Everybody's affected by everything different.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If what was going on affected him on the field, some other guys may feel totally different because they don't even think about that or don't even care about that. They come in, play, don't even pay attention to that. Some of the guys on team, you might, if you don't tell them, they probably don't even know the whole story about, whatever's going on in the front office. So it's going to affect people a little different. And just to piggyback off of that answer I gave before about Cameron, like I said, it'll be up to Washington if he's not there no more. That even includes contract time.
Yep.
If Washington don't want to keep him, that'll be up to them. But yeah, I think he would definitely love to play there. But yeah, I don't think nobody overreacted. Hey, if we wasn't out there, playing with a hurt leg and all that stuff, so we don't know what it really affected him.
Yeah, I can't really say people are overreacting to it, honestly, because, what Alex was saying is something that's, common knowledge. We've known this. This was, at the peak of all the dysfunction. Bruce Allen and his Coors Light fridge, or I call him Booze Allen. Everything was just falling apart at that time, and obviously Alex is up there telling the truth. Obviously, just telling his opinion, and obviously fans are going to get defensive over it. I just didn't see all those fans getting defensive, but I understand a lot of people were tweeting about it, saying that there were fans that were. I just didn't see a lot of them. What did you think, Reed?
Exactly like you guys said. I don't think he said anything that nobody knew. This has been a stigma with Washington for a long time. It's that was an issue, and like you said, Alex Smith even said in that interview, it happens everywhere. You see this happen at some teams, some franchises that are very successful. They know how to contain that. Some franchises that aren't, they haven't been. And that's literally why we brought in Rivera and co, so that way they can try to change this culture. So I don't think it was anything that should have shocked anybody. And Alex Smith was a little bit closer with some of these, the front office and the owner than a lot of these other guys were, just because he was the quarterback. He was the star of he was a big name quarterback. And, so he was a nice guy. He was getting involved with all that stuff. And then he had that very public injury, and it was terrible. But it is what it is. I don't think anybody should be shocked at all.
And now the next question we have is from Wahoo Dad on Twitter. Thank you, Wahoo. Who is y'all's favorite prospect in this year's draft, Coach Curl? I'm not sure who you'd pick.
Man, if I had to pick, I'll probably go. I'll probably take Treylon Burks first, and because I think we can get a solid DB if we need one in the later rounds. But yeah, 11. If Treylon Burks is still on the board, I'm snatching.
Yeah. And what about you, Reed? Who's your favorite prospect in this draft, and why is it Derek Stingley?
It's not Derek Stingley. It's not that. No, I like Ahmad Gardner. Ahmad Gardner's my guy. I'm a huge Sauce Gardner guy. Granted, like we said, cornerback isn't the biggest position of need for us. I do think that you can't turn down a lockdown corner. I'm a huge Sauce Gardner guy. I mean, if you just go back and look at his stats over the years, it's just incredible. I mean, what was it last year? First of all, he never allowed a touchdown his entire collegiate career.
Yeah.
He didn't allow a catch over 13 yards last year or something like that. And it's just like when somebody's playing at a school that's not in Alabama or in Ohio State, you want them to dominate. He dominated. He did that part. That's completely, and plus his size is so elite and rare. Like, I'm a huge Sauce Gardner guy.
I guess if I had a favorite draft prospect in this year, I guess you could say it'd be like Troy Anderson or something along those lines. Of somebody really,
we know who it is, Kyle.
And it's Desmond Ritter, obviously. But I've said this so many times, I don't need to say it more. Okay, but I guess Troy Anderson, just because the Brian Urlacher aspect to it. That being said, but let's move on to our next question. Thank you, Wahoo Dad. And this is from in our Discord chat server. Coach, what are your thoughts on Smoke Monday? This is from our guy, Tony Shivers, who is literally a consistent and constant contributor to this show. He feels like we should draft him on his name alone. What do you feel about that?
I mean, yeah, shoot, I'm a big fan of just the name. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, you can't go wrong. I mean, yeah. What is he, Kyle? He's a safety that's 6'4", 6'3".
Yeah,
I remember he was listed as that in college. College is usually decisive, but I mean, we need somebody to kind of fill that Landon Collins role. I don't know. I haven't watched much of him. I don't know if he could come up and play the line. I don't know if he's going to be more of a traditional free safety, but yeah, I mean, hey, you can never have too much talent back there. We had one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. That should change, but hey, that's a later round pick. Why not? Cool name alone.
Yeah, I also think he's a downhill safety, but I don't know if they're going to go to the same defense they did, same defensive package as they did when we had Landon. I think they're going to go back more to what we was doing in 2020. So that might not be a good fit, because my thing is, and I not taking anything from Cameron, but I think we need a true free safety.
Okay.
Right.
I'm right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's just my opinion. And not saying he's not a free safety, but I think we need somebody that
more of a center field type. Right.
Yeah.
Games that do it all, go around and smack you in the mouth and do everything. Right.
And I think he plays better when he does that. So I think if we have the freedom to let Cam, play on the line, cover the tight end, get up and cover, we know they got a good running back there they can catch. He can go up and play those positions in the strong safety or the nickel or whatever. And we have a guy back there playing center field, that can play side to side pretty quick. I think that'll help out more than having another, a big, solid run stopping safety, get somebody back there that can cover the pass and you ain't finna throw over their head.
Yeah, and I watched a little bit of Smoke Monday's film the other day, and it was actually against Arkansas. And there was one play where Treylon Burks lines up in the slot in the red zone and actually runs a seam route, and Smoke is on him, but the quarterback escapes the pocket, and so Smoke starts jumping towards the line of scrimmage, leaving Treylon Burks open. He throws his hands up, and then the quarterback throws it over Smoke Monday's head, and Treylon Burks goes up and gets the ball. I loved seeing that difference in play there because it kind of shows you this difference in projection of the player, because Treylon Burks is obviously a phenomenal athlete and should be a first-round pick. And Smoke Monday having the know-it-all to be able to like attack the line of scrimmage and being like, oh crap, Treylon Burks is behind me. So it kind of shows why it's a 7th rounder. But I love the name. I also love the player just because of how much he's versatile. He can do a lot of things. And I think as a later round pick, maybe he could be Cam Curl 2.0. You never know.
But
the next
you would have to watch out for him though every Monday night football game because you know he's about to smoke so much. And you gotta be like, this guy's gonna mess up, you know, because he smokes every Monday. I heard his middle name is Every too. That's a little known fact.
Oh wow!
Oh, that's funny. Now the next question that we have is from Jeff Miles in the Discord chat server. Coach, are we one first-round pick flop away from being the same as the Raiders?
Ooh. Man, yeah. No, I mean, not really. No, not really. Because heck, I think every D lineman that we picked first round, have panned out. I mean, what are they considering the flop? Dwayne Haskins,
Josh Doxson,
Jamin Davis.
Doxson. Oh God, I forgot about Doxson.
You said,
but those
I forgot about Doxson.
But aside from them, though,
see me, I don't think Jamin Davis is a flop.
Yeah, he's not. Thank you.
To me, because his numbers don't say superstar from their first year, everybody don't transition the same. And when we put that, you know, being a first rounder affects people differently too. Mm-hmm. Some people just come out. I'm a first round draft pick. Some people just come out and play the way they always been playing. There's some people come out and feel like I have to play a certain way, and mentally, it might take them a little bit out of the game. Right. To me, I just watching, you know, just the other day, I had to go back and watch some more Jamin Davis stuff. Why? I mean, he has the talent.
Oh yeah,
he has the athleticism. I think he overthought his rookie year because he felt that I have to do. And dude, you surrounded by a squad, so you don't have to. Just play your ball and go out there. So I think this year, I think we're gonna see him look better every year.
Yeah, that was one of the questions that we had. I think it was from Orange Crush at the end of the season. They asked like where Jamin could go to kind of, and what do you think about Jamin? And one of the things I said was that he lacks kind of natural instincts on where to fill run gaps and being able to, you know, keep his outside shoulder clean on an outside run in order to be able to get in the backfield in case the running back tries to bounce outside, right? And I thought that the Sam linebacker spot would have been perfect for him, and obviously he went to that in New York and it worked out. But going to Jeff's question, I don't think that we're one first-round flop away, obviously. The only reason I said Jamin was because, like, that's a consensus on Twitter if you talk to everybody. You know, that's what they say. I don't personally believe it myself. But that being said, I don't think that Coach Rivera is sending out any racist emails. So I think that would be, like, probably the closest thing to get to the Raiders, right? Or
overdrafting because they're fast.
Yeah, that's true.
Darius Hayward Bay, Damon Arnett. I mean, it's like, come on, guys.
Clellan Farrell and everything. Like, come on, man.
Alex Leatherwood played terrible last year.
Yeah, he did. He did. I told everyone and their mother, I was like, dude, that's a guard. That's not a tackle pre-draft. And look what happened. The Raiders thought they were smarter than everybody else.
Yeah.
Coach, this is going to wrap us up for this show, sir. I can't thank you enough for coming on here and joining us for the last 30 minutes. A little something different. I thought that this would be better for us.
Oh, man. No, I enjoyed it, man.
My man, dude. I can't thank you guys enough for doing it. And then, of course, we want to hear from you guys. What do you think Washington should do with some of these spots, with some of the fan questions? I want to hear your responses because especially me and Reed, we love to interact with you guys on the YouTube page because some of you guys are absolutely hilarious. So make sure you comment and subscribe, everybody. And then we'll be back on Monday. I hope you guys have a great weekend and be safe, please. I'm Kyle.
I'm Reed.
Coach Greg.
And we will see you very, very soon. Have a good weekend, everybody. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Peace.